Honey, what are you thinking?
Is it that time? Yes, it definitely is. Time for another questions ladies wanna ask. Add cast. Feels great. Feels awesome to be here. Just right on time for another podcast. And today or tonight, depending on what time you're listening to it, what question are we addressing or what are we going to talk about? Let me think about it. No, I don't need to think about it. I already have it. I already know what we're going to talk about. You don't know, but I do, and that's why I'm here. I'm gonna enlighten you. I'm gonna let you know. And with that, welcome to the podcast. Jobs as usual, and the question is, what usually happens? Typical question. You know, most relationships, they're basically based on what? What is it based on? We all know communication, right? It's a huge factor. So today's question is basically about what do men have against communication? If I was to put it differently, it would be, what do you have against communication? But in this case, I'm always addressing about from a man's perspective, so it would be, what do men have against communication? A different way to put it would be like, why don't you listen? Or why don't men just listen? Yeah. I'm a man, and I'm just about to address that. And so chill, sit back, relax, grab something. I might grab something too, or maybe not. Yeah, I'll just be here, talking and ranting about it. And with that, let's get it on. So, like, are men just terrible at communication? Do we just absolutely suck at it? Not really, not quite, because some time back I learned that, like, we tend to have this assumption that the lady we're with, that it's like she knows what I'm thinking, until things like get heated up, it's boiling all over the place, making a mess. Then maybe she says something and I say something, then I'm like, wait a minute, is that what you were thinking, like, all this time? Then she's like, are you crazy? Is that what you were thinking? Like, back and forth. This happens because people are just not communicating, right? Like, I'm thinking something and I make an assumption. I assume, oh, she's acting like that because this happened, or she thinks he's acting like that because that happened. That's an assumption, and most of the times it's just wrong, completely absurd. Best thing is always to talk it out and find out whether it's actually what's going on. I found that out quite a couple of times until I realized it's better to just, in my own way, to like put it off my chest, to speak it out and to let the other person know what I'm thinking, because it tends to just clarify everything and saves you both a lot of time, energy, and a lot of confusion. It opens up everything and helps you realize what's actually going on, to get to the bottom of it. So, just a peek into the workings of a man's brain, a man's mind. A fair amount of men will show that if you just take a look at most of us or our way of thinking, you'll realize we rarely open up fully, like saying what we think or feel. It's just usually the way some of us are. We don't just speak it out or say what we're thinking. And this is not in every aspect of the relationship. No. It applies mostly when we are like upset or feeling maybe disrespected in one way or another. Yeah, in such cases, that's when most guys just don't want to speak out. They just choose to hold on to whatever is troubling them, right? Yeah, that's what we do. Some of us, of course, not all. So instead of expressing ourselves like fully, digging deep and putting our emotions, how we feel, like, we don't just want to like put it all out there, right? So instead we choose to go silent, thinking like she should know we've been dating, or she made me do it, or this is why I'm feeling that way, so she did it. Like, we are assuming that you should just know, as if you're angels. I know You can't always know everything. You can't know what he's thinking. But sometimes we're just upset and we tend to assume that you should just know. Well, guys, believe me, she rarely has any idea what you're pissed at. You see her like trying to figure out what's going on the same way you think you know why or what she did. It's the same thing. She might be assuming you know why she's angry or upset the same way you think she knows why you're angry or upset. Yeah. Meanwhile, she has no clue what you're even angry about. Yeah, give it a shot. Both ladies and gents. Tell him or her exactly what you think, exactly how you feel, and see their minds get blown. They'll be like, whoa, that was a huge, massive misunderstanding. I didn't know that's what you're thinking, or I didn't know. Yeah, like, is that what you're really operating under? Like crazy. So I know relationships, like several of them, that ended because men or both of them, the lady and the guy and the man, they just didn't want to communicate, or they failed to communicate, and the end process was just breakups or divorces. Had either party known better, they'd have lived nice, fulfilling lives in a warm, loving relationship. But only if they had known better, which means if only they had known to communicate, if they had tried to communicate. And communicate doesn't mean going silent and assuming the other person knows. No, it means swallowing it, like swallow your pride if that's what's stopping you from communicating, and just sucking it up and just voicing your opinion and saying what you think. Most important is saying how you feel. Yeah, that's basically the basics of communication. Yeah. So it's not always about ego when it comes to us, man. A man might not communicate simply because he doesn't know how to. It doesn't always mean he's just too proud to communicate. Maybe he just doesn't know how to communicate. I know it might sound funny to some guys. It might sound funny, but most men just don't know how to do it. Yeah, they don't know how to say, or we don't know how to say what's bugging us. Yeah, we've been taught, and we are kind of used to not complaining, right? We're used to not complaining, not whining, because we see it like if we communicate, it will be like a form of whining or complaining. And most of the times, we'd rather just not express those emotions. Yeah, because we just don't want to seem like we're just being negative, whining for no good reason, or complaining, especially if it's something we've addressed before. If I might have mentioned, oh, we need to do this differently, but maybe she doesn't pay attention, or she chooses not to, or she forgot. I mean, she's human. So we might feel like there's no point in addressing it again. So we just like keep it back until it boils over, and yeah, guys start acting weird, going silent because he doesn't want to address it again. He feels like, do I really have to keep saying the same thing again and again? Yeah. So, but usually if a man doesn't know how to communicate, it just clouds his judgment and keeps him or keeps us from just saying what's going on. Why? Because we feel like we're just complaining, and in some way you should already know. We tend to assume you should already know, and in part that it will just vanish and fade. We just hope that if we don't address it, it will just solve itself. Yeah. There are some men who grew up in a communication-friendly environment where they learned to speak their mind. Great for those ones, right? Others, not really. Others know that to them, communication involves in part getting upset, or getting other people upset. So they avoid the whole thing in total. Why? Because they never had a place or people around him who taught him or who allowed him to just communicate how he feels or what he's going through. So growing up, he feels like, or he's learned not to communicate. Yeah, communicating to such a man, it involves in part emotional vulnerability, and with that, getting misunderstood as weak. No man wants to be assumed to be weak. If a guy was taught that communication or communicating means he's weak, he'll obviously not want that. He'll avoid it like with all he has. Yeah, and some others, communication usually means losing control of your emotions, maybe getting upset, raising his voice. So If that's what it means to him, he'll obviously avoid that. Yeah, he'll tend to avoid communication if it means him losing his senses and acting weird, shouting, and all that. Yeah, so word of advice to any man out there: a man talks, a man communicates. Just because it feels hard, difficult, maybe a little alien, doesn't mean you shouldn't. That's exactly what you need to do. It's hard, it's difficult, yeah, I know, but that's exactly what you need to do. It's the right thing to do in this case. It's the right thing to communicate. Believe me, it's life changing, to say the least. It will change your life for the better. So if that's the option you have, please communicate. Try it once or twice. You let me know. You'll feel better. It changes everything. I tried it myself and it worked out great. And moving on. This might be point number 3 on. Remember, the question is, what do you have against communication? Or what do men have against communication? So most men, the problem is feeling like you should already know what's going through his mind. I mentioned that, right? He assumes you should already know his mind. I know she's not a mind reader, you're not a mind reader, but yeah, some men operate on that notion. And as much as you hope, as much as some of us hope she would just read our minds, no, it doesn't work like that. Ladies, some of us just, if you could read our minds, we'd be pretty happy with that. Of course, not everything that's going through our mind. Maybe just when we have something that's getting us upset or angry, yeah, it would pretty much come in handy. Because we wouldn't have, some of us, the ones who have a problem communicating, we wouldn't have to speak it out. Because I mentioned, some guys are just not used to that. In voicing their opinion in such a manner, like to say what's eating them up. It feels like complaining, or it feels like he's just being a whiny little, yeah, you know that. So, yeah, most men have been taught not to do that. I know, ladies, men should talk. We don't always talk, but we should. But the question is, how would you get him to talk, right? He's your man and you need him to communicate. He might not want to communicate, but how would you do that? And like one of the best ways I found was just to ask him, give him the various scenarios of what you think might be going through his mind or what might be going on with him. Something like, are you upset that I called your mom? Or are you upset that I forgot my dress? Something like that. Like address it based on what you think might be the reason he's angry or upset. It might sound petty, but it's a good start to find out what's happening, right? Like, what's the problem? If he still won't speak up, it's quite, you can tell, like, based on his reaction, if it's something bigger. If it's something, like, if it has nothing to do with that, you can tell by the reaction how he acts after that. If he, like, just brushes it off, you can judge the reaction. If it's a little bit, if he gets, like, a little bit more upset, you probably know it has nothing to do with that. But if you still can't judge it, best thing you can do is not overreact. Talk, communicate. Tell him like the problem is, and like say, I'm sorry that I don't know what's got you upset. Please give me a clue. That works especially for the guys who rarely communicate or say what's running through their head. There's those kind of guys. So just ask him like, if it's not that, then what is it? Right? Get him to open up. If it's not that, he might really have no idea. If you don't let him know that, he might not know how much it's bugging you or how much it affects you. So it's a good way to find out what's actually going on. And you can just say something like, I'm sorry that I don't know what got you up, what's got you upset. Please, a clue, anything. Throw me a bone, something, right? Yeah, just don't. It shows your intent to know, to find out what's bugging him without appearing like you're nagging or that like you don't care. Yeah, he wants to know. He definitely wants to know you care. And then again, you are hopefully that kind of a person, like a person who actually cares. Because if not, then maybe both of you just shouldn't be like in a relationship. If you really don't care and he wants you to care, or either way, if it's the other way around where you want him to care and he doesn't care, doesn't seem like it's working out. might even be past communication, hopefully not. But what I do know is communication usually solves just about everything. So go for it. Try that. And what if he says, I don't feel like talking? Allocate some time so he can cool off. Give him some time, maybe a few minutes, then approach the subject again. Remember, not negatively, or not like complaining or whining, no. And yeah, just in a positive angle, like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's getting you upset, or I don't know what I might have done, but I'd really like to find out why you're acting that way or why you feel that way. Yeah, yeah, and remember, he might be, maybe he's just a little bit busy working. It might be part of the job, right? Not always you. It doesn't always mean it has anything to do with you. Might be his job. It has him on the edge. So just be there, but don't interrupt or interfere. Let him finish whatever he's doing, then approach the subject. That way, his mind is free and open to communicate and not being dragged off by some urgent task or job that he needs to complete. Remember, if it has something to do with his work and you keep on approaching it like it has anything to do with you, he'll just feel misunderstood. And if he's not the talking type or the communicating type, he'll just basically kind of brush it off, and you don't want that. It will end up hurting you because you're trying to approach the subject, but he keeps brushing it off. So, like I mentioned, if he seems to be a little bit busy or held up, I'm sure you can tell when he's a little bit busy. Just chill, give it a minute, give it an hour, let him finish that. Once he's done with it, or when he's taking a break, yeah, you can then approach it and find out what's going on. Basically, get to the bottom of it. Yeah. And on a different point, is he avoiding eye contact? Obviously pissed. If it's just the work, I would participate in the conversation. If it has to just do with my work, I'd probably say something. I might not react like in a positive, oh, it's just my work. No, I might just answer your question. I might be part of the conversation and let you know something at work or something else that I need to do is bugging me. I might say it in a way like, oh, it's just this thing that's really stressing me out. Or I might say something like, I really need to finish this job. Or, yeah, which is just a way that most of us will let you know that we can't focus unless we're done with that thing, whatever it is. So avoiding eye contact, on the other hand, might be an indication that I'm not happy about something you did. Yeah, now we are addressing if it has anything to do with you. Remember, a man assuming that you did something wrong doesn't mean you did it. That's just the assumption we're operating under. Some of us get our minds blown to Mars when we realize how wrong we had it. Completely mind-boggling when we think, oh, she did this, that's why I'm upset, until we address it and we realize we had it all wrong. I know not all men, but some do operate under such assumptions. If he is hardly meeting or keeping the stare while you're trying to communicate, while he's pissed off, yeah, find out what's running through his mind in a subtle way. Find out in a subtle way, like not like attacking mode. No, you approach it like we mentioned in a nice, cool way that it doesn't feel like an attack. As we mentioned, without the shouting or approaching it in an annoyed or aggravated tone. Yeah, be the voice of reason and watch him react to it. He'll open up. Why? Because you approached it in a nice, mature manner. Once he opens up and finally speaks out, outburst or not, after the storm is peaceful calm, right? And no more grumpy, sullen mood. If things change, if however, the problem he had is not addressed, assuming you were the cause of the displeasure, right? Here, I'm assuming you were the reason he got upset. Well, you can blame him if he decides he wants something different. If he approached the situation and communicated with you about the displeasure, but you said you'd address it, yet nothing changed, he might look for a different approach. He might be looking for, to him, it might appear like since you never addressed it, he might look for a different approach to get you to do what you both agreed on, right? If you agree to do something, but you seem to not have realized or not have done your part, like maybe it does happen sometimes. Maybe your place was untidy, right? With stuff everywhere, kids hadn't been eating well and all that. We can understand like what goes into a lady raising kids, right? But it might be that there's something that he needed you to do differently, or you both agreed that you should do differently or do it better, but it wasn't addressed, or you just didn't do that part the way you both agreed on it. So, and it just happens that he couldn't handle it anymore. He'd get back to work. Obviously, let's like a scenario, simple scenario or typical situation might be maybe he got back from work, obviously tired, and does everything else, including making the meal for the family and the kids. Meanwhile, you or the lady just wants to hang out with her friends and maybe do a little too much of neglecting home duties. That might be something that might piss most guys off. If you seem to not play your part as a couple, you're not doing your part. Obviously, he might get pissed off. If it's something like that, you can expect it. You can expect him not wanting to communicate because he expects you know better, or you've already addressed it together and you're still not doing what you promised you would, like changing it a little bit. Yeah, if he feels like you're just not taking it seriously, don't be surprised if it gets all upset and all that. So, yeah, I have a friend who naturally went through that. Those typical stages: anger, displeasure, and then to downright resentment. At which point, he didn't really want to address it again. When it got to the point where he's now resenting her because she was not like taking care of that problem, yeah, he just was past it. He had tried everything he could, and he felt like there was no other way to solve it. Why? Because even though there was the communication, it didn't solve anything. He communicated and she communicated, but the results after the communication, there's supposed to be some results, some changes. That's why you're addressing the problem. But if it's not addressed, yeah. So he gave up on everything. He gave up on the whole situation because the problem was never addressed. Also, in this couple's case, like they had known each other for a maximum of like 2 years. Yeah, the thing is, they got together, started a family, yeah, quite fast. So, yeah, they hadn't gotten to know each other enough or well enough. So, he never, like, realized she was, that side of her, he never quite got to know it. Yeah, he never got the signs. So, yeah, she said she realized she just, after getting married and after getting kids, that's later, much later on is when they really needed to sit down with a couple of friends, and she addressed it and she said, I'm sorry, I just realized. Like much later, she realized she wasn't cut out for the marriage. Yeah, bottom line is he didn't feel the need to communicate. Once he had tried communicating and the problem he felt was occurring wasn't addressed, he stopped communicating, and at the end of the day, she failed, she also failed. He failed at that because he stopped trying to communicate. But you can't really blame it because he tried getting the problem solved, but it wasn't working out. On her part, she just didn't want to communicate and say she wasn't ready for the marriage yet. She just wasn't ready, and she failed to say that. She failed to let him know that maybe things would have changed, but bottom line is she just felt like she wasn't ready. Or maybe something happened, and later on she realized she wasn't that was just something she wasn't meant for. And yeah, she thought. She also mentioned, so he asked, why did you just tell me before? She said, I didn't know. After we dated, after we started the family, that's when I realized I wasn't meant for that. So, yeah. But his problem was that she was giving her friends way too much time and giving their family less time. Yeah. Communication helps, but actually, quite frankly, it helped. If he had never addressed the problem, she'd have never known what was ailing him or what problem he had. But that's how she found out that his problem was that she was spending too much time with friends, something that she wasn't willing to give up. She wanted to spend a lot more time with her friends, while he wanted her to spend a lot more time with the family. So communication helped. It might seem like it failed, but it actually helped them to realize that it just wasn't going to work out. They wanted different things. All right, I hope you got that. I know you got that. All right, let's move on. So, with him, I know instead of communicating, he just shut down and let the pressure build up. Instead of communicating with her, he chose to communicate with his friends and family who ultimately advised him to end the relationship. Just that in this case, had she been wanting a relationship, they'd probably have worked on it. But she wasn't. Good thing she knew that part pretty well. She might have realized a little bit later, but with communication, they were able to come to realize what was ailing them or what the problem was. All right, so moving on. Remember, the question is, what do we have against communication? So we rarely want to go on and on about what's upsetting us. If something pissed me off at that juncture, I might not really want to talk much about it. Probably not. And if it has to do with other people, no problem. But if it's you, I might want a moment maybe of silence until the whole feeling dissipates. Yeah, we addressed that part before, right? Some guys just want to let it simmer a little bit and cool off. Yeah. But question is, what if it has nothing to do with you? What then? Why the silence? You might be wondering, because if it has nothing to do with the lady, then why is he silent? Why is he silent? Why is he not communicating? In part because we just don't want to drop everything on you. Some of us are kind of used to handling everything by ourselves. I know toxic might seem a little toxic, yeah, but some guys have been taught to just handle problems, deal with them by themselves, rather than telling it to others or dropping it on others. Yeah, the mindset is a man should always handle his own business. Yeah, I know. Some guys will be saying like, hey, no man is an island. I know. But most guys just operate under that. Like, you should just handle whichever problems you have. So sometimes he's just trying to fight so hard against what comes like to him naturally. Like, life throws everything at anybody and at all of us. So sometimes he's just trying to figure things out or fighting whatever he has on his own and sparing you the trouble. Kind of noble that he's doing it. Basically, he'd say he's doing it for you. He's saving you the trouble. But I know most ladies don't want it like that. They want you to talk it out, guys, to talk it out and work on it together. And if you realize your guy is that kind of a person who seems to hold it back and work on it by himself, it's good to just communicate again and let him know how it makes you feel. You don't feel good if he just holds back the information and tries to do it all by himself. Yeah, that way he can realize that he's not helping you by keeping it all to himself, that you want to be part of it, you want to help out. Yeah, because at the bottom, at the end of it all, I know you just want to help. And that's why you cannot be at peace until you get to the bottom of it. Some men feel like you're just pressuring him to open up. And maybe it's something he's not used to, right? Or something he's trained against. He's trained against being pressured to give up information or to say what's going on through his mind. So it's great if you slowly lead him into knowing your team and that you care about him and you're just doing it for the better, right? That it's a different approach. It's something he should try. This means actually talking to him. We know you care, but in this situation, you're addressing a communication hitch. Let him know it hurts you when he goes quiet or closes up because you function differently. For you, it's different. You want him to communicate, and you just want to help him feel better. Yeah. Sometimes we just want to do it ourselves. So it's no cause for concern, right? Ask him, how can I make you feel better? He will have an idea or two. You can always suggest it, but you can always ask him, how can I help? Not with that situation like, how can I make you feel better? Because if he's not communicating, he's obviously not feeling great, right? So you can always ask him, how can I make it feel better or make you feel better? You can, like I mentioned, you can always suggest something like, let's go out or let's watch a movie. Let's catch a movie. That should definitely help him relax. Of course, you're doing it together with you, and he'll see that it's not such a big deal after all. Why? Because you're offering suggestions, something you could do together to help him get the edge off. Yeah. Moving on, communicate properly. I know we mentioned it before, but this time, I'm addressing like your choice of words. It matters a lot what you say and the kind of words you use, the language you use. Say he's avoiding talking about something. Use words like "I feel hurt when you won't talk to me," right? Instead of something like "I feel hurt when you focus on your project," or "I feel hurt when you focus on your job." What's the difference between these two? In his mind, when you say you feel hurt when he focuses on his project, you're attacking the job or you're attacking the project, which he in his mind he's doing it for the good of both of you, or for you and the family, you being his family, so he's doing it for you and him and for your future. So instead of attacking that, whatever he's doing, like go after the actual problem. The problem is not the job, right? It's not the job he's doing. It's not the project he has. It's not the amount of work he's dealing with. It's his lack of attention towards you. The fact that he's not giving you the attention you want. So tell him it hurts, or I feel hurt when you don't talk to me, or when we don't talk to each other. That way he knows he should set apart time just for the two of you. That's why I'm saying your choice of words matter a lot, because they carry the meaning, and it also determines how he perceives your message, how he perceives what you're saying, and how he takes it. Like, why the silent treatment? He feels, if it's silent treatment, maybe he feels like, he feels like, what did I want to say? Wait a minute. Silent treatment. Yeah, I almost forgot that. If it's silent treatment, maybe he feels like it's a way to communicate, but you know better. He might be thinking he's communicating something by going silent, but obviously you know better, and that's why you communicate with the right choice of words and show him that's not how it should work, or that's not how you feel is the best way to communicate. Showing him how you feel about it, and thereby helping him speak. Like speak his mind, which in turn helps you both finally see the light. See what problem was preventing, like you get to the bottom of it, you get to see what problem was preventing you both from seeing eye to eye. How? By using the right words, the right choice of words, which means trying and finding the right language to use. Yeah, all right, moving on. Think about it. Is it that he only doesn't talk with you, like going on and on about a topic? But is it that? No. Think about it. Is it that he only doesn't talk with you, like going on and on about a topic? Is that the problem? Maybe he just, because there are different ways men might not communicate. One is he's just not talking. Another one might be maybe he's just not an active participant in a conversation that you're having. If that's the case, might be a little bit different. Maybe he usually has such conversations with other ladies, other women, other female friends. Is he that kind of a person? Is he that kind of a man? And maybe it has little to do with him being poor at communication, right? And more to do with him having something that stops him from talking to you. Because if he's free at communicating with other ladies, it just means he's not poor at communication. There's something keeping him from communicating with you. Yeah. One could be he doesn't trust you enough to talk about certain things with you, or maybe you haven't known each other long enough. Yeah, that might be a reason why he doesn't feel like he can talk to you about certain things. Yeah. He might vent to other female friends who he feels knows him better than you do, or maybe he assumes or he feels they won't judge him in any way. So he feels like it's better to talk to them about certain topics or certain issues if he doesn't talk to you about them. That's still part of a problem with communication. if he doesn't talk to you about certain things, and yet you'd love him to talk about them with you. If he has female friends who he seems much more open with, might be time to find out why he's not open to talking to you about such topics, yet he's free and open to talking to other female friends on those topics. I know some men have such female friends. We do, some of us, right? Maybe one who, or several who he can talk to about everything while only talking to you about the typical stuff. It might take a while until he trusts you enough to talk about the kind of stuff he hasn't opened up about yet. I know I had a female friend who would talk to me about things she just didn't find easy to talk with her boyfriend. I kind of felt that maybe they just weren't really that good for each other, and amid all that, they went ahead and got pregnant. Like, even though they had problems with communication, I know with time they can always solve it, but somehow they hoped that getting pregnant would bring them together. Yeah. Yet they lacked communication, or the right communication skills for both of them, because he also happened to have a lot of female friends who he'd talk to instead of venting to her, and same way she had me and a couple of other male friends who she'd vent to instead of venting to each other as a couple. Yeah, so it was that she found him incompatible, but yet she loved him to the point where when she needed to have an actual deep conversation with guys, it was either me or our other friends, our other male friends. That's never a good sign. He too, he did the same thing with female friends. Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes that leads to getting a little too comfortable with your female friends, or a little too comfortable, with your male friends. So leads to cheating, and yeah, sometimes you get some very poor advice from those friends. Same way she got some poor advice, maybe from, hopefully not from me, but from some other guys, which ultimately led them to separating. Yeah. So maybe if they had in some way found a way to communicate with each other, that would never have happened. Yeah, because now she's a lady with a kid and not together with a boyfriend. And he's a dad and not with the mother of his kids, the mother of his kid and not with the kid. Yeah, excuse me. So it's never too late to talk. Communicate. Not that guys can't or don't, just that he can't or won't talk to you. Yeah, so if that's the case, follow the simple steps we mentioned before to show him that you want to be on the same page with him. You want to be an active participant in the relationship by communicating, and show him that it means a lot to you when you both communicate, and that it's all right for him to talk about anything and to let you know what's going through his mind, no matter what it is, that you're open to all topics, all of it, everything. That way he knows he can talk to you about anything and everything. Yeah, and remember, the question is, what do you have against communication? That just means, what do men have against communication? So, I know, some guys or some men are good at communicating with actions rather than with words. Don't get it wrong. We still tell you we love you, but not as many times as we should. It makes a lot, and the reason is that it makes a lot more sense to us when we do nice things for you. Like planning a date in advance, maybe taking you out, helping with household chores, cooking for you, doing the dishes, something like that. We tend to express it in different ways, different actions. Yeah, we wouldn't be doing it, believe me, we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't actually love you. It's kind of like our own way of saying we love you. Why? But I know ladies always ask, why can't you just do both? Say and show it as well. Well, some men are just not made that way. They're just not built like that. We can always learn. I know most guys can always learn, but a couple of us out there, the aspects that there's some of them, they just can't do that. They just don't work like that. But doesn't mean he can't learn. He can always learn. Any man can always learn, as long as you let him know that, or it feels good when you actually say. But remember, we might actually work slightly different. Yeah, some of us with the actions, it means a lot more. Changing your car tire, even though we're not living together. Like if you have a problem in the house, in your apartment, we're willing to fly over and fix everything. Yeah, that's just part of the process we show you. Doesn't mean we're bad at communicating. We're just communicating in a slightly different way. Yeah. Yeah, I know. There are aspects that you know about your spouse better, and there are those aspects that you don't expect them to change. The same way, there are things he knows about you, and he doesn't necessarily expect you to change those aspects. Yeah. So some men are that's just usually the way some of them are, or the way some of us are. You can help change the small stuff, of course, but there are gives and takes. We know about that. Like if your guy is an introvert, you must love that about him. And you probably wouldn't be trying to change that aspect of him, like trying to make him the outgoing, crazy, club popping, and all that. No, this probably the reason you like him is that he is an introvert. Doesn't mean you can't help him get out of his shell. No, but there are limits. Like getting him out with friends and all that, that's normal. But you wouldn't go far and beyond to turn him into an extreme extrovert. No. If he like doesn't communicate as much as you would like, and if he was always like that or has always been like that, you knew him, right? When you guys were starting, you knew that's the kind of person he is, and you know that's how he is. So you can get him to do what you want a little bit more by letting him know how much it means to you and how good it makes you feel. Remember, there's a reason you're together. There's a reason you're good together. So there might be something he'd want you to do when you started dating. He knew you don't do that, and he's okay with it. So meet him halfway. Work with who he is as much as you can. However, if something is such a big deal, point it out. If it's something you're not happy about, it causes you displeasure about him, just address it. He won't have a problem with it. The only problem is, like, let's assume if he used to communicate before, like he was good at communicating, but he's just not anymore. If he's not good anymore at communicating, in that case, yeah, you need to address it and find out, because it's obviously something changed. Don't believe that men just change after they get the woman. No, that's a big fat lie. I've heard that, oh, once he got me, things changed. He doesn't do what he used to do, or we don't do that anymore. No, not unless something changed that triggered it. Or unless he was pretending of all those years that he was doing the right things or the things that you loved. If not, something changed that made him stop whatever that was, whatever he was doing before that you loved or that you liked, excuse me. Yeah. Unless he just wasn't that kind of person, and that would be crazy because it meant that he pretended for years. Yeah, I don't know many guys who can do that. Definitely not. Excuse me. I gotta apologize. I had a crazy series of hiccups. I don't know what's up today. If you know why guys get hiccups, please let me know. I know I've Googled it before. I've heard a few reasons why. I've asked around before, of course. I don't know why I'm having them today, but it's alright. So, back to the topic. I know there might be a few fakers out there who you gotta keep your eye out for, right? Yeah, but most of us usually don't go in, like we just don't go pretending, you know that. But there are those fakers, and maybe you might have gotten one who was kind of pretending to be something he's not. Hopefully not. But generally, for every other man out there, if he changed or something changed, address it. Ask what's going on about that. It might be a good way to find out, because if it wasn't like that, if he wasn't like that, something might have changed, or something led him to act different or to be different. If I love kissing you, it might look more like it's all physical, but it's not. That's just part of me showing you how much I love you. Again, I wouldn't be trying to French kiss you all the time if I didn't love you. Well, maybe not the French kiss, or maybe yes, or maybe not. But I'll leave it at that. My point was, we sometimes express ourselves in more physical ways. Maybe the kissing, maybe doing something for you. Yeah. It doesn't mean that he's bad at communicating, like he's bad at expressing his emotions or telling you that he loves you. Maybe he does it in some other subtle different ways with actions. Yeah, so also look out for that. That might be his way of telling you he loves you. Yeah, just doesn't mean that he's bad at communicating. He just sees it slightly differently. He communicates slightly differently. Alrighty then. My hiccups seem to be. They took leave. They took they're absent now, which I pretty much appreciate. They are giving me a hell of a time because I'm having fun with the podcast, but they just out of nowhere they just come and hit me. Like, what's going on? Yeah. All right. Moving on. Remember, the question is, what do men have against communication, or what do we have against communication? And this is kind of a question for the ladies. Do you listen to him when he's talking? Do you pay attention? Because if not, don't be surprised that he doesn't pay attention to you too. Not that he sits down and like plans the revenge or the vengeance. No. It's not that he says, since he doesn't listen, I won't listen to it. No. Maybe to him, he sees it more like a lack of care. Like you don't care what he's saying, or maybe he assumes that you think it's not important, whatever he's saying. So he assumes you think it's not important enough to listen. So same way you might feel when trying to communicate with somebody who doesn't seem interested, right? Or if the person doesn't have enough respect for you, obviously they wouldn't listen. So yeah, same way, it's the same feeling. And he just might be responding to what you usually do. If he thinks communication is not important to you, naturally or psychologically, he'll assume you're not receptive. And that's not a place you want to be, like with any man. Leave alone your man. That's why some men have female friends and colleagues who are a little too close, like for comfort. Why? Because they seem to listen or they seem to pay attention when he's talking about something which he might find lacking with you. Yeah, you might think, oh, they're a little too close for colleagues, but the thing is, maybe they just listen a little bit more than you do, or maybe they just pay a little bit more attention to whatever he might be saying. Don't get it wrong. Guys love talking and communicating too. Yeah, but only if we view you as a responsive partner who listens and pays attention. So, what am I saying? Start listening, actually listening. Being an active participant, not interrupting too much, or just not interrupting, basically. These are the basics of communication because think about it. Why would I want to have a conversation or to tell you about something if it turns out like you'll just keep interrupting it, or maybe you just turn it into something completely different or something about you. If I'm addressing something and it turns out that you have something to say about it, great. Of course, I expect you to chip in, but if you turn it and into something completely different or all about you, no, kind of beats the reason why I wanted to communicate it or to communicate about it in the first place. So do it this way. We rarely have a lot to talk about. So if we do, listen and don't interrupt. Or don't make it about you. Or don't take charge for the next 30 minutes of the whole conversation. No. Let me explain it. You listen first. Then later, after we've gone through it, you can step in and talk about yours or mention something you wanted to talk about. Of course, I don't expect, obviously in a communication, it's two-way. So if he goes on and on for 45 or 60 minutes, well, that's a little bit of a drag. I know that. But my point was, if he's communicating something, you can listen first and then give your 10 cents or contribute. The hiccups again, they're coming back. But we can deal with it. We can handle it. So I expect the same thing of him. When you talk, he should listen first and listen to your part instead of making it about himself. Same thing. If you started the conversation, great. I or your man, he'll let you do it first. Then we can go through whatever I have, like my input on it. But if it's always about you and he knows it, then he'll not want to communicate with you, even on the small things. We learn, then we adopt, right? So if you're not a good communicator, we stop trying and find others to communicate with. It's human to look for connection. If we don't find it with you, yeah, like he might try and find somebody else who he can communicate with or connect to. Yeah, so it's not always that all guys are bad at communicating. Maybe they're bad at communicating with some people, maybe not with all people. Yeah, and next point, which might be the last point, maybe he just needs some space, right? Like with you, not away. Like he might be closing up because he's dealing with something, and closing up helps him feel like he's avoiding the negative feelings he's going through. If he's going through something that's a little bit negative, maybe by closing up and not talking about it, he's avoiding the feelings associated with that, with whatever he's avoiding. So he's not avoiding communicating with you, he's avoiding the feelings associated with whatever he's avoiding. Yeah, he's avoiding whatever it brings, the kind of feelings it brings with him, the kind of emotions it brings. So just like let that be for the moment. At least you both don't have to address it. You can suggest something else, like riding bike together. Yeah, just come out dressed for the bike ride. That way you just jump through the hurdles. Like he might have like, oh, I don't really feel like going for a ride right now, I don't feel like jogging. No, just come out ready. Like come out in your ready for, in your sneakers, like you're ready to go jogging or you're ready to go ride a bike. That way he can't start excuses like, oh, I'm not ready for it, because he realizes when he sees you're ready for it, you're all dressed up and all that, he doesn't have a chance to try and avoid the jogging or the running or any other exercise or any other event you have planned. Something, not huge event, something minimal, something that just gets you both out there. And just come out ready. So he'll just like, all right, let's just go. So he'll just go, maybe grab his sneakers and you can both head out. Action, moving helps. Moving helps relieve a lot of stress. If that's what he's going through, yeah, and he might not have mentioned it, he'll by you moving around, getting him to move around, taking a walk or jogging, it will help him alleviate a lot of that stress and tension. Sex, maybe not a good idea at that time, because he might not be ready for sex at that time. He takes a lot of attention and focus. Maybe that's not what he needs at that time. He just needs to move to get moving. So do that, get him moving. Yeah, come out ready for it, like for a walk at the park. That will help him get ready for one himself. Do something that gets him out of that little horse of comfort. That's just depression. It might feel comfortable for him to just sit there and maybe work on something, but meanwhile it's probably depressing. Yeah. So by getting him to take a short break, if it's not something that he needs to finish immediately, that short break might help out. He takes a walk, of course, with you. Yeah, a little bit of fun. Jogging, bike riding, something fun. He'll love it and will love you for it, for even suggesting it, and the fact that you realized he needed something different. He might not have realized he needed a walk or a jog, but by you suggesting it, and when he tries it, it helps him feel different. He'll really love that. Date night might not be what he's thinking about at that time. Remember, he's stressed out, right? He's probably stressed out and he's not thinking about something like that. So, not date night, not sex. Yeah, just a walk would be pretty awesome. Yeah, or a run will probably be just as good. Driving, again, might involve him focusing, which might drive his mind and his thoughts back to whatever is stressing him out. So maybe focus on something that doesn't involve a lot of stress. Walking, jogging. Those are pretty much the best ideas I can come up with. Yeah. I'm glad my hiccups are not there. I had fun with the podcast. I always have fun. Once in a while, I might get that little hiccup and it might try to keep me from having fun, but I kicked his butt or her butt. I don't know if hiccups are his or she's, whatever it is. I kicked its butt, or we kicked its butt. And with that, I'm gonna stop the podcast. And I hope you had fun, and I hope you're having fun. And until next time, stay good, stay safe, and I'm gonna catch you later. Hasta la vista, baby.